To officially, I'd like to note that this meeting will be recorded and shared amongst members for study and self-reflection. In order to have a smooth meeting, here are some ground rules. Please put yourself on mute when not speaking. Don't interrupt while someone else is speaking. Be attentive throughout the meeting and support the speakers with your warm jazz hands or claps. Next up, I'd like to do our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now, since I do not see our president here, so we'll go straight to the Toastmaster, which is me. First, I'd like to bring up our grammarian, Mr. Daniel Wu, for the introduction of the grammarian's role.
Hi, everyone. I'm the grammarian. I will be checking you for word usage and filler words such as and so if it's not used correctly. I will also be looking for the usage of the word of the day, immaculate. Immaculate means spotlessly clean or without flaw or error. In botany and zoology, the word describes beings that have no colored spots or marks. An example of this word used in a sentence: even a minor scandal has the power to tarnish an otherwise immaculate reputation. I will hand this over back to the Toastmaster. Xavier.
Thank you for the introduction of the grammarian's role. Now I'd like to bring up our timer, Mr. Horace Taylor, for the introduction of the timer's role.
Good afternoon, Toastmasters. As timer, it is my job to keep track of time. For prepared speeches, 5 to 7 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, my background will turn green. At the 6-minute mark, my background will turn yellow. And at the 7-minute mark, my background will turn red. Remember, once you see red, you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. For table topic responses are 1 to 2 minutes. At the 1-minute mark, my background will turn green. At the 1.5 minutes, it will turn yellow. And at the 2-minute mark, my background will turn red. Again, you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. Then for speech evaluations are from 2 to 3 minutes. At the 2-minute mark, my background will turn green. At the 2.5-minute mark, my background will turn yellow. And at the 3-minute mark, my background will turn red. And as you've heard before, once you see red, you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. At the end of the program, when called upon, I will give my timer's report. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mr. Timer, for the timer's role.
Okay, so our first speech will be by Michael Liu, and he will be going over product number 5, Your Body Speaks. And the objectives are to use stance, movement, gestures, facial expressions, and eye contact to express your message and achieve your speech's purpose, and make your body language smooth and natural. So his speech will take 5 to 7 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Liu, and today I'm here to tell you about my love for Latin. Now, a lot of people are going to tell me it's a dead language. No one speaks it. You'd be correct. But almost 90% of the English vocabulary comes from Latin-based words, which means by studying Latin, you can broaden your vocabulary dramatically. Now, it wasn't exactly by choice that I picked up Latin. In 8th grade, our school has a mandatory Latin 1 class that everyone takes. However, it was my decision to continue Latin into my 9th grade year. I found it extremely fun, and as a foreign language, I believed it had more value to me than, say, starting over in French or Spanish. Now, it wasn't exactly a hard class, but my Latin 2 teacher, she was a hard teacher. She believed in excellence. Her standard of teaching was very high. Every day, we had multiple homework assignments, and her quizzes and tests would always be very hard. However, I believe that is what drives my success in my Latin 3 class today. It's because she was such a hard teacher. She taught me the basics, the grammar, the vocabulary, the culture, everything about Latin that I could have needed for the next year, she already taught me. In addition, she drove us to participate in the state Latin convention, which last year was very fun as although as an alternate, our Kurtaman team was able to score and place. For that, we studied extensively and practiced on our own. Now, back to this year. A couple weeks ago, I attended the TJCL state convention, which was held in Knoxville, Tennessee. That was quite annoying because I had to take a 6-hour bus ride. Prior to this, I believe my teacher would be quite disappointed. I did not study at all. Unfortunately, my schoolwork was far too heavy and I could not find the time to study for my project. So there I was on the bus trying to find a comfortable position. Was it leg out like this? Or should I lie back? Or should I just sit properly with the guy in front of me leaning his seat all the way back? I couldn't find a way. But what I knew was the task faced before me. I had prepared flashcards beforehand that I prepared a year ago for last year's competition. However, what I looked on was 500 flashcards, of which a quarter I could say I've ever seen in my life, and the rest were completely foreign to me. So there I began my task. 6 hours later, I felt that I was more prepared than I already was, but not as good as I could have been. As soon as we arrived at the convention center, it was total chaos. Groups trying to find teachers, trying to find registration. All the events needed a starting time. So we just sat down at the convention center and waited for the event to begin. The first event was academic testing. Now, MUS has won the state Latin convention for the past 13 years or so, which in part is because of our large delegation and academic testing. Our teachers would always bully us into sitting until all the way till the end. My teacher last year, she especially encouraged us to take every single test we could, because that meant we could score more points for our school. So as academic testing began, I was forced to squeeze in between two people on either side of me who were actively conversing. Obviously not allowed. Cheating is not allowed. But unfortunately, only our school has an honor code and other schools don't quite have it. So once again, I was forced to sit there with my cardboard lab board that halfway through the test bent in half, which meant that I no longer had a stable surface to write on. So I turned it again and I kept writing. After another 2 tests, it bent. So I was now forced to write on a bent piece of cardboard. Fortunately, I pushed through and I finished 8 tests, which was more than the average student took. But I unfortunately only studied for about 2 of them because my main areas of study are culture and geography. Therefore, those tests were the tests that I felt most confident on. Things like derivatives, vocabulary, mythology, I pretty much guessed based on my base knowledge and some certain hints that were placed throughout the test. Next came a series of events that were more participatory instead of academic. There was the tug of war, which was part of the Olympica program. Although we had not planned this beforehand, our school put together a 4-man team with me on it. I don't know how, but I'm not built for tug of war, as you can see. But still, our team managed to get to 2nd place. And as we were fighting against one of the stronger teams, and all of them looked pretty strong, I was standing, and in the mud, I was slipping, and they used our own strategy against us. They pulled hard, and I just collapsed. I just slid, and we lost. But we still placed 2nd place, which gave us points. Next was the dramatic Latin event, which I recited a Latin passage from memory, like the old orators of Rome, using inflections and reading poetry. I believe I did decently well. At the end of the day, we all went home to our hotel rooms, and we all know the after party is the funnest. So all of our friends gathered in a tiny hotel room that had 2 beds. There were about 13 people spread across 2 beds. You can imagine how chaotic it was. We played computer games all the way into, this would be embarrassing to say, 4 a.m. Yes, you heard that correctly. After a day of exhausting competition, we stayed up till 4 a.m. the next day. But it was very fun. Although I was quite scared when the results were being announced, our school still won, but I think it was a closer victory than most of us would have hoped. That is my experience at the State Latin Convention. I believe that a foreign language is very fun to study because it can teach you a lot of things about other cultures and also lends you many opportunities in life. This is why I believe everyone should pick up a foreign language. Maybe not competitively or seriously, but just learning one is plenty fun in and of itself. Thank you.
Thank you for that excellent speech, Mr. Michael Liu. Now I'd like to bring up Ms. Anna Jing for her pocket speech.
As Anna is making her way to the front, as her evaluator, I will simply say what I'll be listening for and what we will all be listening for is how well she construct her pocket speech, as in giving us a subject line, if you will, a body of the speech and the conclusion. And then as she transitions from one section of the speech into the next, and however she closes us out by reminding us of 1, 2, or 3 points, or however she decides to do that. With that, can I get everybody to put your jazz hands together as Anna graces us with the virtual lecture? It's all yours now.
Thank you, Toastmaster Taylor. Last month, I went to watch this musical, Tina the musical. Most of you probably don't know who Tina Turner is. Raise a hand if you know who Tina Turner is. Okay.
I've heard of her.
Yeah. She's probably 70-something years old. She's a queen of the rock and roll back in the 80s, I believe, 70s and 80s. So I'm gonna show you her picture by sharing my screen. Yes, she is the pop music star. And even though I know her a little bit, I know her song, a very famous song, Proud Mary. I don't know her really personally. I don't know her life. So I was curious when I went to watch that musical. But what I learned from her life experience is that she had a hard life. When she was little, she was a good singer at her church. Her daddy was the minister at that church. So Sunday morning, she always sing loudly in that church service. She's the loudest girl in the choir, and she danced wildly. In the afternoon, she went back home. Her mom came up to her and said, "You embarrassed the whole family. You embarrassed yourself." And her daddy stand up, went to her mom, said, "How can you say such an awful word to a child? She's in a good spirits." Her dad slapped her mom on the face. Her mom fell down. When her mom came up, she said, "I had enough. I had enough when I had this baby girl." So she came up, wrapped up her belongings, she left. She took her older sister and left. Now, Tina was living with her daddy and her grandma for most of her teenager times. And when she grew up, she went to live with her mother, later met this guy called Ike Turner, which is the band leader. And that's how she got into the band and gained her fame, became a famous singer. She married Ike Turner, but Ike was very abusive. She hit her, do all sorts of just physical and verbal abuse to her. After 16 years of marriage, she walked out with her 2 boys, 2 sons. Of course, her career went down, but she managed to find the right person and came back to be the queen of the rock and roll. Now her mom is now very sick. She got a call from her sister and saying, "Oh, mom is dying." She flew back to see her mom on the bedside. Her mom said, and at this time, her ex-husband Ike came to the room, begging her to go back to him. And Tina said, "No, I'm not going back." After Ike left, her mom said, "You should be ashamed about yourself. That man made you famous. Without him, you would be nothing." Tina burst into tears. Why you do this to me? Why? I'm not worth any of your love." Her mom passed away. Finally, her sister, and her poor mom buried her mom by pouring the ashes in the ocean. That's what her mom wanted. Her sister asked her, "How do you feel now?" Tina said, "I feel free. I don't have that both abuse in my life anymore." After that, watching that, I realized that a lot of times we have people in our lives that probably just not gonna be good and healthy in our growing up. But there's a way to get out of it. Like Tina, he persevered. He walked out of that relationship. But unlike Tina's mom was still conquered and confined in that hatred. The hatred he had with Tina's father, that abuse made her bitter, angry throughout the rest of her life. And she threw that anger and hate to her own daughter, probably. And Tina was able to stand up for herself at the very last moments. I would like to end my speech by quoting Tina's very own song. And the song's title is "We Don't Need Another Hero." And it says, "We don't need another hero. We don't need to know the way home. All we want is life beyond Thunderdome." For a lot of people, life is a thunder. But you can either stay in that thunder or you can walk out of it, because at the end of the thunder, there's a rainbow, there's a sun, and there's a hope, and there is reconciliation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that excellent pocket speech, Ms. Anna Zhang. Next up, I'd like to bring up our table topics master, Mr. Anson.
Hello, I am the table topics master for today. I will be asking y'all a question on the topic, and y'all will be given 1 to 2 minutes to answer. My first question is, if you were to travel to any country, where and why? And I will give this question to R&D.
All right. If I was gonna travel to any country, I would travel to China. That's where my in-laws live. I want to go see the Great Wall in Beijing. I want my daughter to go there for the first time. I also enjoy learning Chinese, so it'd be a great opportunity to practice for 10 to 14 days. Actually, we plan to go this year, but due to the travel restrictions and travel issues, we're going to go possibly next year. The last time I went to China was 2013, so it's probably changed a lot since I've been there, and I'm excited to see what the changes are. Of course, I enjoy the food. Sichuan Thai is my favorite. And I like spicy food. It's a great opportunity there as well. And I also want to do some fishing there with my father-in-law. I've taken him fishing here. I want to go there and catch some fish and see what kind of unique fish they have in their rivers. That's all I know.
Yeah. So my next question is, what is one thing you would like to change about yourself, and how will be for Xavier?
Thank you for the question. One thing I would like to change about myself is my height. I would like to be taller and, of course, have a higher vertical to be able to dunk. Because anytime I'm watching basketball or playing, whether it be on the game, in real life, the concept of dunking is always amazed me. It's also one of the reasons why Michael Jordan is one of my favorite players. It was his athleticism and his work ethic and the amount of the dunks that he did were insane to me. So the one thing I would like to change about myself is my height. Not only just for dunking, but also for anywhere in the paint. Because I like playing paint a lot too. Thank you for the question.
Third question is, who was your idol as a kid growing up? And that would be for Miss Anna.
Who is my, okay, right there. Who is my idol when I grow up? My idol was always somebody in the TV. Some singer or dancer, they're just so good at what they're doing. When I was growing up, I want to be a good singer or a good dancer. So those naturally became my idol. But I didn't end up being a singer or dancer. Why? Because it is a culture in China that if you want to get a good job, you gotta get a good education, you gotta go to a college, not dancing, not singing. So, which probably is wise, because I probably will not make a good living by being just singing because I can't sing now. That probably would be a wise decision for me to go to college. And I can still sing and dance as a hobby, which was pretty good, not too bad. Thank you very much.
My next question is, if you have the ability to learn a new language, what language would it be? Mr. Horace.
Thank you for the question. If I had to learn a new language, what language would it be? Well, as some of you know, I had an opportunity to learn a new language. And by new language, I mean a language other than English, since that's what I grew up speaking. When I turned 18, or should I say 19, I joined the Army. And the Army sent me to Germany. As it turned out, I lived in Germany then for about 14 years. And within the first 9 months, well, let's be realistic, within the first 2 years, I had learned to speak German. Since that time, I have dove off into Arabic, and I am still learning Arabic. But as recent as 2 weeks ago, I started to learn Vietnamese, Southern Vietnamese, because I have a new work colleague who's from Vietnam. And I told him day one, I said, give me 6 weeks and we will have a conversation in Vietnamese. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Topics Master.
Who is your favorite superhero? There we go, Michael.
One. I actually have two favorite superheroes, one from the Marvel universe and one from the DC universe. You could argue that they're quite similar. So my favorite Marvel superhero would be Iron Man, and my favorite DC superhero would be Batman or Bruce Wayne. I really believe in the fact that they are self-made. Like, they're really smart and they're able to create these extraordinary technologies with nothing but their own minds. They are millionaires and billionaires, but that's outside the question. What makes them really admirable to me is that they can stand up to all the different gods, enhance people, strange beings, by the fact that they're just human. They're just like, the way they're able to do that is because of their own hard work and innovation. That is what makes them such a great role model, because I think it drives inspiration and also innovation in people who looked up to them. Thank you.
If you were to relive a day of your life, what day and what happened during that day? Let's see, Miss Tony.
Thank you for the question. My particular day that I would select would be the day that my oldest son recovered AIDS via Dick Gregory. And I think I shared this once before. But those 3 days, and Emily, I have started the research on the eczema or the atopic dermatitis. But the first day, I gave him the herbs to go in and break up the infections. The second set of herbs on the second day was to send all of that infection out of his body. And the third day, herbs were designed to start to rebuild the immune system. Later on that that night, he went into this tremor. And I just got up in the bed and held on to him because I knew he was getting ready to die. And since he was so much taller than me, what he did was, "Hey, shorty," talking to me, "why are you holding me so tight? I'm hungry." So, I mean, I couldn't ask for anything. So, with those herbs, no meat, all alkaline foods and water, I kept him where you couldn't look at him and tell he had been sick a day in his life for 5 years. However, he went back to his old lifestyle and didn't call me until it was way too late to fight again. So that would be my day. Thank you for the question.
What is one goal or mission you want to accomplish?
So one goal I want to accomplish would be just to get into a good college and eventually get a good job with a good wage. Getting into a good college would be essential to my future because I can well, good colleges would just getting into a good college would help me get a better job, which I think would I don't know, would equal a better wage. So that's it. Thank you.
If you were to reborn as an animal, what and why, Emily?
I've never thought about this before, but if I were to be reborn as an animal, I would definitely choose a sloth. I've been asked this question a couple of times at like summer camps and stuff, and it was, what do you think your spirit animal would be? And every single time I always say a sloth. And that's because sloths spend most of their time sleeping, just hanging around in trees. They move really slowly, and I feel like I would enjoy that kind of life, just hanging around in a tree, sleeping whenever I want to. Food would be really convenient because, I'd already be hanging in the tree. I could just like reach out for a leaf and then eat it whenever I want. So just kind of a really relaxing life. Thank you.
What is your favorite movie, Xavier?
I believe I got asked this question last week too. And I answered.
It's alright, I'll give you another one, okay?
Okay, good.
What is your favorite Disney princess?
Favorite Disney princess. I don't have a favorite Disney princess because in my younger years I didn't really pay attention to that many Disney movies at the time. However, if I have the name right, I believe Ariel, or it's either Ariel or Tiara. I'm not sure. Both of them seem like cool characters from what I can remember. If Ariel is the mermaid girl that I'm thinking of, I believe she is a princess of the mer people. So that seemed kind of cool to me back then. And Tiara, if I'm thinking of the right one again, was the one that got turned into a frog. So I thought that was pretty funny back in my younger years. But the favorite of the two, I can't decide. Thank you.
If you were to have kids, how many and why?
Me? Well, a very interesting question for a man who is turning 16 this June. Meaning I would not have to consider this until many years in the future. But I believe that one kid would be my ideal number because I grew up as an only child myself. So I understand that maybe not having brothers or sisters to play with might be a little more difficult for some people, but I myself quite enjoy the lonely time. So that's what I would choose for my child. I also believe that I must contribute to the stopping of overpopulation. So I'm trying to not put burden on the world as much as possible. So one child would basically not cause the population to explode. And I believe that one child will also allow me and my future wife, possibly, to focus our efforts and nurture that child to have a happy childhood and also to be a successful adult when the time comes. Thank you.
I'll return the control back to the photograph booth.
Thank you for the interesting table topic session here by Mr. Anson. Now I'd like to bring up our general evaluator.
I act as a general evaluator and
All
call
right.
on the first evaluator for our first speaker.
Thank you. So I evaluated Mr. Michael Leo, who did his speech on a Latin convention, was it? Or like, okay, a convention that he attended. I really liked his immaculate use of eye contact. He really kept the whole entire room engaged. He looked at everyone. I saw his eyes like flittering around. So I knew that he was really trying to actively engage the audience. And I also thought he had an excellent use of body language. I did notice, however, that you tended to use your left hand more than your right hand when you were making gestures. Like you would use your left hand a lot more. But overall, it was really nice. I especially liked when you were acting out like the part on the bus when everybody was like in different positions. And I also really liked when you acted out the part about the tug of war. That was really fun, especially the part where you fell on the ground. I thought that was really engaging. Overall, your speech was really nice. I really liked your confidence. Like I said earlier, you really kept everybody engaged. You weren't monotone at all. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Emily, for that evaluation. I agree, Michael. Latin is not a dead language. I wanted to study Egyptology over at Memphis State, and they told me I had to learn German and French if I wanted to study that. And so the first thing I had to do was go into a Latin class, which they claim was a dead language, but medicine and law use the language. So my first assignment was on the culture, and my professor gave me Hannibal. But I had a real problem with those prefixes, affixes, and suffixes. But he allowed me to delay the class while he answered my questions. So I appreciate that presentation on Latin. Excellent. So let's call on our second evaluator for the Tina Turner expert. Horace, are you the evaluator for Anna?
I am.
Please take the virtual lectern and share with us what you thought about this impromptu presentation.
Thank you so much, Madam General Evaluator. Gaveliers, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Anna took us to school today. She did a magnificent job, an immaculate job, giving us a synopsis of the life of Tina Turner. I have a number of notes here, so I will try to be as brief as possible. First, that was a wonderful introduction. And what was really key about this is the fact that it was a hip pocket speech, as in you weren't really prepared to give the speech, but in fact, you delivered it magnificently. The backstory about Tina growing up as a church kid, her father was a minister and at the same time very abusive. And when she left home, ended up in a relationship now as a grown person that also turned out to be an abusive relationship. Thus, ended up leaving that home with her sons. Her mother, on her dying bed, as you told us, even was still in the mindset of, why don't you return to your husband? I have to assume that has to do something to do with maybe being brought up in the church setting. I don't know. But her mother ended up passing away and they spread her ashes over the sea. So here's the takeaway for me. It was a well done presentation. The images of Tina Turner was perfect. It really sealed the deal for me. And you left us with this parting statement. And I believe it was a title of maybe one of her hit songs, top 20 songs, right? It was titled, We Don't Need Another Hero. You taught us about persevering, overcoming bad situations, whether that situation was both personal and or professional. And I have to take my hat off to you, which I don't wear. You did a magnificent job, in a crunch for someone who was not preparing to deliver a speech today. You did a magnificent job. I hope everybody saw how confident Anna displayed herself as she was giving the presentation. Now, granted, here in virtual land, my screen was filled with everything, so I couldn't necessarily see your body language, but I'm sure I didn't see anybody falling over, so you wasn't smacking somebody, as in a rendition of Ike smacking, right? But I love what you did, Anna. Thank you so much. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Great. Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Taylor. And I agree. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Anna Jean, for that presentation and showing us the difference in two generations. The mother obviously had been indoctrinated, where Tina had been educated, and there is a difference. So I appreciate that contrast. And I hope you'll continue to study the biographies and autobiographies of strong women. Since you have a little 3 or 4-year-old girl, we should know the difference. And there are some books that I would like to recommend offline, share with you, because it takes about a year to read each one of them. So now we'll proceed by introducing our grammarian for today. If you would take the virtual lectern, please, and tell us what you thought about the speeches as given.
You, Miss Antonia. I'll start with all the filler words used. So for me, I had 5 ums and 2 ahs. For Mr. Horace, he used the word of the day, immaculate, but he had 2 ums and 1 ah. For Xavier, I could not spot any filler words, so good job. For Emily, I spotted 1 so, 2 ums, and she also used the word immaculate, the word of the day. For Michael, I spotted 1 pause. For Anna, 1 so. For Anson, only 1 and for our new member, Jason, Mr. Jason, he had 1 and 1 For Miss Antoniette, she had 1 and that is all of the filler words. Thank you, and I'll pass it back to the general evaluator. Yes, Miss Antoniette.
Thank you so much. We'll go to our timer now to see how well everyone did on the allotted time given for the speeches, as well as the table topic presentations and our evaluation.
Okay, thank you, Madam General Evaluator. For our first speech, Michael Michael spoke for 7 minutes and 9 seconds. Anna spoke for 6 minutes and 42 seconds. Then when we got into the table topic session, our very first speaker, Mr. Jason, our guest, and we have not even introduced our guest yet. We better fix that. So we will get to you, sir. You are an honored guest. You spoke for 1 minute. Excellent answer. Xavier came back with 1 minute and 10 seconds. Anna spoke for 1 minute. I spoke for 1 minute 30. Michael spoke for 1 minute and 1 second. Tony spoke for 1 minute 50 seconds. Danielle spoke for 1 minute 30 seconds. Then Michael rolled around again with another 1 minute and 10 seconds. And Emily closed it out with with 38 seconds. Emily, where are you? And Xavier closed it out with another 1 minute and 38 seconds. Then for the evaluations, Emily spoke for 1 minute 15 seconds, and I wrapped it up with 3 minutes and 18 seconds. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Taylor. Before we have our guest introduce himself, I would just go briefly into, we did start on time. We had 2 excellent speeches. Michael, I really appreciate the Latin presentation, as well as the Tina Turner biography given by Toastmaster Anna. To our Toastmaster, I noticed that you used Mr. Jason and Mr. Horace and Miss Antoinette, but when it came to Anna, she was just Anna. So based on that, I'm gonna recommend that we either use, out of respect, Mr. or Mrs., or we can use Toastmaster. But for the coordinators and the elders, I will ask the youth to just put that handle there. Toastmaster Anna, not Anna, but she's really not your peer. And out of respect, I just thought that I would throw that in there. So, table topic sessions were interesting. Everyone participated, which is kudos to our table topic master. Our evaluators were on point. And I think the grammarian and the timer were both on their role and responsibility and did that quite well. So that's my report as the general evaluator, and I'll turn it back over to our Toastmaster with thanks again to everyone for your participation.
Thank you, Ms. Antoinette Britnam, for taking up that general evaluation role. Although we were missing a few people, our timing was excellent. I'd even go as far to say it was immaculate for our overall meeting, for the timing at least. So thank you everybody for who all has come. And now, since I don't think we have any other announcements, but I would like to bring up our guest here to introduce himself.
My name is Jason Pendergrass. I'm a maintenance manager at a food plant in Byhalia, Mississippi. Every month I have to give a town hall presentation to the entire plant. I have to motivate them. I have to stress cultural goals. I have to build a team environment. So that's why I'm in this class. I want to be better at my presentation skills. I worked in several industries. First, my background educationally, I'm an engineer with an MBA. I worked in food manufacturing, paper manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, lawnmowers, smart glass, packaging, and then again now in food manufacturing. I've held various positions from maintenance engineers, production supervisor, maintenance manager multiple times, and I feel that public speaking is a key to the next level of promotional opportunities. On a personal side, I'm married with a 7-year-old daughter. She's in class now learning Chinese. And what I would like to do is take my abilities to present and speak from average or wherever I'm at to immaculate.
Mhm.
And I want to bring my daughter along for this journey, and maybe we can find a way to give motivational speeches across the United States or wherever the opportunities are together. It'd be a way to bond together and also to hopefully earn some money. So that's kind of my goals. I study a lot. My hobbies, I like to read, I like to learn. So I've studied Chinese for 8.5 years. I'm a little rusty now because I most recently started learning Spanish, and that's due to our Latino workforce at work. I'm the only senior leader that speaks Spanish. It's not that I'm fluent. I just study my speech on a monthly basis and prepare for that speech. But it's allowed me to include that segment of the workforce in those plant meetings, because without me speaking Spanish, they only hear a language they don't understand. They only speak Spanish. They do not speak English. So they're in the meeting because they have to, but they're not totally engaged. If I can get them engaged, our production, our KPIs will go to world class, and that's because we will have everyone working towards one goal. So that's me.
Thank you, Jason. We look forward to you going from good to great.
Sounds good. I read the book.
All right.
I have a couple of things to discuss. Thank you. Thank you, Jason, for that immaculate introduction. I think you just said it right. Public speaking is so important, even when you grow into adulthood in your work or in workplace. It is such an important skill. And I noticed you have a very good eye contact. Whoever is speaking, you have a direct contact with the speaker, with the people in the screen and people here. So that's something we all need to learn, right? Yeah, when the speaker is speaking, we give an eye contact to not only give a respect to the speaker, but also show you are paying attention. You give the encouragement to the speaker as well. There are a couple of things I want to bring up. One is the semester and year-end speech fair, if we call it speech fair. Some parents want to see how kids are progressing. So maybe we can have a session Sunday afternoon, 1 hour, just to have a row of the speeches. We have 10 youths right now. If everybody has give a 5 to 7 minutes speech, we're probably gonna go over 1 hour class, the session time. But if you feel you have difficulty to participate, then that's fine. But I think we have let me bring up the school calendar.